Last time it said. Actually, no. Last time you were too quiet. I try to mess with it around, and then like one little tiny little adjustment to either of our mics, and it's like we're like either the loudest or the quietest people. Why does it do this to me? Let me edit. Why? It's not letting me. You all right?
I don't. Yeah, my remit fell. I like that light on. I am gonna pull up my other curtain though.
Yo, why the fuck won't it let me open this? Excuse me. Christ, Chris, what are you working on?
What?
What are you doing?
Is it that loud?
Yeah.
I'm moving my curtain up. It's like a paper curtain. Wait, is my sound coming through my AirPods?
Maybe.
There's no way that could be that loud.
Is it a paper curtain?
Yeah. Know what I'm talking about?
I guess so.
Oh.
Dude, I don't know why I can't upload this thumbnail.
Input. Yeah.
Okay, now it should be coming out of my mic.
Yeah, now it sounds much better.
My bad about that.
You're good. Why? Dude, this is really pissing me off now. It's like a. Oh my god. You know, these little things before the pod that don't work really just ruin my mood.
My dad just said, you guys know that you're live on Twitter, right?
Yeah, we know we're live. We're trying to figure this out. Chris. Sorry, Mr. Hagen. That was disrespectful. Coach.
Coach.
Alright. Can this work now? I don't want to go to analytics. I just want to edit it.
Let's go. What are you trying to figure out?
I'm trying to put the thumbnail that we have very nicely made for us onto the YouTube, and it is not letting me do that. And it's very frustrating because I normally do it this way every time. So why it's not doing it? All right, I guess we're just gonna have to edit it afterwards. I don't care that much anymore. All right, let me share this out, and then we'll get started.
We just riffing.
Yeah. You're gonna hold this baseball I'm gonna ask you some baseball questions.
Okay.
It's gonna be a nice little format.
Are we just starting with March Madness and then baseball?
Do you want to start? I was gonna start with baseball and then go March
Madness. Okay.
All right.
That works.
All right, let's get it out there. Share it.
Charge.
Someone charging the mound.
I wish. There was almost a brawl in the Mets game. Oh my gosh.
These load perfectly. All right, you ready? That was 5 minutes on YouTube that sadly everyone who clicks on the stream will have to simmer through. That's okay. All right.
And on Twitter.
Yeah, I guess it'll be on the replay on Twitter too. Yeah. All right.
Let's go, 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 go.
Let's get started in 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to the Wise Guys Podcast. I am your host, Brady Fitzgerald, joined as always by my co-host, Chris Hagan.
How you guys doing?
Doing well, Chris. I wanted to apologize. No podcast Wednesday. We had a good schedule. Then a plane had to get delayed.
Logistics, Scott.
Yeah. But I had to take a test on Thursday. That's why we ended up couldn't pushing it back later. Got a 94 on it though, so worth it.
There you go. All worth it. You'll
now
forget we're people too.
Oh yeah. And not like you did the podcasting and school for 3 years. You know, I'm gonna be doing it for 4.5. That's okay. And yeah,
I'd switch places in a heartbeat.
Too. Thanks, Chris. All right. It's opening day. I have a Busch Light here. Nothing better than a beer and some baseball. You know, I'm in this show. Baseball Brad is back. I just need to get caught up here so I can get ready for the season. Haven't followed anything since I even forgot that the Rangers won. They played the Diamondbacks apparently in the World
Series. Honestly, that was probably the least watched World Series ever.
I don't even know. Did we even I remember discussing like how bad it was for baseball.
I don't think I wanted to talk about anything baseball related for a couple months at least.
Yeah, I remember that.
It took me a while to even be excited for the season after the way my season ended, but I got back to that point like a month ago where I was ready for it again, and we finally made it.
Yes,
so it is. I felt so left out yesterday because the Phillies game got postponed. Supposed to be yesterday at 3:00. Now it's today at 3:00. Oh, Carrie.
Which is right now if you're listening and you're not live. Looks like what Philly just got a run.
And Brandon Marsh just hit a 2-run home run. Nice. They're up 2-0. Nice. Yeah. Apologies. That was me setting up what was about to happen.
It was a perfect segue.
Supposed to play yesterday. Yeah. Got postponed to today, so I had to watch all the other games yesterday. You know, all my friends are Orioles fans, and they're all excited, and they had a big one yesterday. And bad for me, I was just losing bets. Obviously, wasn't going to move another podcast. And it's a sports podcast. We got sports on in the background, so
it's okay.
This isn't the first time that I've had a Phillies game on during a podcast. So if you're wondering what it was like to watch a game with me, you're going to kind of get that experience. Okay. But already the pod is a good luck charm. Because it was 0-0 for 5 innings.
So
anyway,
it's a great note. It's perfect segue. So yeah, opening day was yesterday. We got a lot of great games. We had wise picks. We're gonna be trying to do that. I'm gonna say once a week for baseball, maybe even twice a week for baseball, and then especially some for the NBA playoffs. And love doing it for March Madness. Let's get right into it. I got some questions for you. So
fire away.
So the Rangers are the defending champs.
Correct.
Is this a possible repeat season for them? Did they get better over the offseason? Did they get worse? Where are they standing now?
I think it's pretty much the same team. They lost Jordan Montgomery, one of their starters that they traded for at the deadline. They lost him to Arizona, I think. Actually just signed like 3 days ago. But it's basically the same team, and they have this top prospect, Wyatt Langford, that they just brought up. So yeah, I think you'd be foolish to say that there's not a chance of a repeat. But they're not the favorites. Baseball has kind of become the Dodgers and the Braves are the favorites every year, and the last 2 years they've both gotten knocked out in the first round. I think the Dodgers are like plus 400 or something ridiculous to win the World Series, and the Braves are like plus 600. So obviously, money is in on those guys. Dodgers have Ohtani now. I'm sure everyone knows that. and the Braves are a juggernaut like they were last year. But yeah, I mean, Texas is one of those teams that is set up to win in the playoffs. They have a manager who's won 4 World Series now. They've got top end guys in their rotation, and they've got studs in the middle of their order. So yeah, I mean, I think if they get in, they're as big a threat as anybody.
So speaking of the Dodgers, yeah, they were the headline over the offseason. The one move that everyone found out about, Shohei Ohtani. He's now a Dodger. So does this, like, is this going to be a move that puts them, like, I mean, now they have Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. I mean, I'm just naming guys that, like, the people who don't know baseball actually know. What's going to go wrong with this team? Joe Kelly, I've heard that name. Glasgow. I'm remembering some of these names too that I remember, like Joe Kelly, Tyler
Joe Kelly, Glasnow, yeah, they traded for him too. Last year it was pitching depth. They had Kershaw was their number 1, and he's kind of getting to that point in his career. He's never been great in the playoffs, but he's also getting really old, so banking on him, and then behind him they just had garbage. And that was partly because Walker Buehler was hurt, who's one of their studs. Another one of their studs, Urias, got in like a domestic violence case, and he was booted out, rightfully so. So to address that, they signed Yamamoto from Japan. They gave him a ridiculous contract, and they traded for Glasnow. So I guess they're hoping this year, if everyone's healthy, then they're going to be the most talented team.
So, okay, there's no doubt about that. They just got to stay healthy for the playoffs.
And they'll probably win like 110 games. It's just baseball is so wacky in the playoffs, especially like a 5-game series, and you have to go up against the best pitchers and on the other team. So it's all a lot about health too. So we'll see. It's a long way to get to those playoffs first, but they're going to be. I'd be surprised if they didn't win the most games this year out of anybody. They're so loaded from top to bottom.
So, how does that stack up against? I guess we'll stick with the national side. And we'll go with the Braves for now. And how does that match up? Like, what is the Braves going to have a similar? They have similar problems, different problems? What's
yeah? Honestly, it was very similar because they had Strider go game 1, who was a borderline Cy Young candidate, and he's pitching today. And then they had Fried, who was banged up a little last year, and then the guy who was starting game 3 was a rookie. They had some injuries, and the rotation just wasn't that deep. They went out and addressed that as well. They brought in Chris Sale, and again, you're just banking on your starters being healthy, but their bats also disappeared in October, and it was the team that set numerous records on offense throughout the year. They led the league in homers. They had 4 guys that hit 30, I think, which is unbelievable. Maybe 5. So they're bringing back everybody. They might have even gotten a little better. So they're in a similar boat as the Dodgers, where like they're gonna win 100 games this year. They're gonna win the division. They're gonna have home field, and it's gonna be pressure again in October. They're like those 2 teams. You just write them off
until the playoffs. So kind of like how I've been treating the Celtics this year, where I just I know what their roster's like. I know what they're good at, but I know these ugly problems are going to rear their head in the playoffs and nowhere else.
Correct.
All right, that makes sense.
They are objectively the best teams in the National League.
Okay. And does that compare to, say, the Yankees or I don't know, Blue Jays?
I don't think so. We can start with the Yankees. The Yankees are very similar every year, where it's like they fall short and then they go out and they add like another big piece, and then something else goes wrong. So this offseason, like last year, they sucked. Obviously, Judge was out for a while, and he's their best player by a mile. So they missed the playoffs, and then they go out and they trade for Juan Soto, who's on don't know if he has 1 or 2 years left on his deal, but the Padres had to get that money off their books. They got him, and now they have an unbelievable lineup with Soto and Judge, like those two guys, and anybody else would be a good lineup. But they have a couple guys in there that are getting a little old, that are past their prime, but still a very good offense. I worry about their starting pitching, especially now Garrett Cole, who was the Cy Young in the American League last year, has something going on with his elbow, and he's shut down for at least a month.
Oh.
So if he can get back on that timetable and the Garrett Cole that he's been the last few years, then I think they'll be okay. I think they'll definitely make the playoffs. If not, they're in trouble because they don't have a lot behind him. I think their bullpen's fine, but another team that there's always a lot of pressure on. I think they'll definitely make the playoffs.
Okay.
I don't know how built they are for the postseason. They're also playing in a gauntlet of a division. You mentioned the Blue Jays.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the Orioles and Tampa, who seems to be good every year, even though they trade away their best players in the offseason. And obviously, they had the Wander Franco situation. They signed him to like a 10-year, $180 million contract, and now he's going through the court process for
pedophilia, right?
Yeah. And they traded Glass now, who's one of their better arms. Their best pitcher's out the whole year, getting Tommy John. But they always find a way, so they're always going to be tough. Toronto just missed out last year, I think. If I remember correctly. They had some down years from some of their best players, like Guerrero should have a bounce back year this year. There's a guy, Alek Manoah, who was second in Cy Young voting 2 years ago, and last year was a disaster. But I think they're definitely a threat to make the playoffs. And then Baltimore, obviously, is set up pretty nicely. They won 100 games last year and won that division, and they brought in an ace in Corbin Burns. They returned everyone in their starting lineup. So I think they're the best team in the division. That was my pick when I went through and I made my division winners parlay. But the only thing that would worry me about the Orioles is guys regressing because they're all so young. It's like we don't know. We don't have a big enough of a sample size to necessarily know what to expect from these guys. But
yeah,
they won like 11-2 yesterday. So
did they get like? Is there some high schooler that they've been saving in the farm system that's like coming up this year? Like I feel like the Orioles always have
Jackson
like,
Holiday. Yeah,
have like 5 guys.
And they were furious that they sent him back down to AAA and he wasn't on the opening day roster.
Oh,
but
okay.
Some people think that it's because he's the top prospect in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty big deal. He was supposed to be, well, not supposed to be, but people thought he would be their opening day second baseman. But there's like a weird way baseball contracts work is once you come up and have a certain amount of at bats, that's when your years of service with the team start.
Yeah. So
if they keep him under the at limit this year, and his years with the team don't start till next year, and then they have him under team control for longer. So I know this is just coming from some of my Oriole friends.
Mm-hmm.
But they think that they left him down there so that they could get another year of team control. But yes, they do have a guy who's waiting to come up and is supposed to be awesome. That's just another piece that they have in an already pretty stacked lineup. Guys who are 25 and 26 years old. He's like 19 or 20 though.
Any hope for my Sox here?
So I don't hate the Red Sox. They were in like the AL Central. I think they'd have a decent shot. The problem is the division is so good that I don't see a way they make the playoffs. But they're a team that if everything goes right, they could win 80 games, I think. But
80 games in this division is not going to get you.
Yeah, it's a long season for everything to go right. But they have some arms that I don't hate. Nick Pivetta was a former Philly, and we always thought that he was going to be a stud eventually. And they flipped him to the Red Sox a couple years ago, and he's actually gotten a lot better. But maybe he'll finally have a breakout season. They have another guy, Cutter Crawford, who I don't hate. And they have a pretty solid, like if Trevor Story, their shortstop, who they signed to a mega deal 2 years ago, plays a full season and returns to his prime. They have Tristan Casas, who was second in Rookie of the Year. They have Yoshida, who they signed from Japan last year. So they have some bats, and Devers, of course, is their best bat. Mm-hmm. So that's why, like, if everything falls into place, then they could be okay. Make a run at the playoffs.
Well, that's good.
I would be more excited than the average Red Sox fan is, I think.
Well, that's good. That's
I also don't know the team as well as the average Red Sox fan, so
that's fair.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Talking about the AL Central, any of these guys do any big moves? Any of these guys contenders for something in the playoffs?
Not really. This is kind of like the poopiest division.
Yeah. Maybe
in all of sports, not just baseball. Where'd the game just go? T-Mobile just interrupt our feed. It's unacceptable. Yeah, I mean, who won? The Twins won it last year. They're okay. They don't really scare me. The Guardians are kind of like the Rays, except instead of going to the playoffs, they're just like feisty every year. But the guy, like their best pitcher, Shane Bieber, has been on the trade block for like 2 years now. It's like it's only a matter of time. Even like, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago, they were like 2 games out of the wild card and they sold at the deadline. It's just, they're a very low budget. So I think they're the youngest team in baseball and they always have good pitching. I just don't know, like, they're probably a bottom 5, bottom 10 offense in the league. So I wouldn't be shocked if they won the division, but I don't think any of the teams have a chance at making a real run. A lot of people are in on the Tigers this year. They have a ton of young talent. They're on their staff and in their lineup. So I think they're still a year or two away from making a real run at the playoffs, although they were better than I thought they would be last year. White Sox are a dumpster fire, and then Royals are kind of like the Tigers too, where they're probably 2 or 3 years away. They have some pieces. They extended Bobby Witt, their shortstop, to like an 11-year contract, which was pretty awesome because they're a small market team, but he's a stud. They just don't have a lot around him, but they have some core pieces. But yeah, that division is not very exciting.
Yeah, we were talking about...
I bet on the Tigers game yesterday against the White Sox. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? It's just freaking 1-0 game. It's a disaster.
I looked at last year's standings while you were talking, and the Twins won it 87-75. They wouldn't even have sniffed the wild card if they were in the AL, the AL East.
What did Toronto finish with?
They did make the playoffs. They snuck in and made 89-73.
Oh, wait. So Toronto lost...
Yeah,
who did they play? The Rangers played the Rays. Who did the Blue Jays play?
Did they play the Twins or the Astros? Had to have been one of them, right?
Oh, yeah, they played the Twins, and then the Astros beat the Twins. Yeah, I think that's what happened. Okay, so Toronto did get in.
Oh. All right, what else I gotta pick apart? Milwaukee Brewers any good? They have that one guy that like can hit homers, right?
Yelich? Yeah, he won an MVP a couple years ago. He went through a slump 2 years ago, and then last year started raking again, like halfway through the year. They just don't really have... They're another small market team, so they traded their ace to the Orioles this year because they couldn't pay him. Their big move was signing Rhys Hoskins from Philly, who is a good bat to have, but he's not like a guy that puts you in the playoffs when you were already looking in from the outside. And their other top pitchers, I think, is out for the whole year. So a team that's usually built on starting pitching has very limited starting pitching now with all these injuries. So they got a couple like older vets just to hold down the fort, but I think they're toast. They lost their manager to the Cubs, their own division, which kind of sucks. So
that's brutal.
We'll see how important he was, because Craig Counsell's his name. A lot of people in baseball were pretty high on him as like, I think he's like a pretty analytics focused guy. So we'll see. That's definitely something to keep an eye out this season in the NL Central. the effect that he has on the Cubs and the effect that him leaving has on Milwaukee.
What about the West? Diamondbacks made it to the World Series. Padres are still pretty loaded, right?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, they have most of the same pieces from the team a couple years ago that lost to the Phillies in the playoffs. I mentioned Soto earlier. They had to trade him to the Yankees, and they lost. They didn't re-sign Blake Snell, who won the Cy Young. So those are two pretty major losses. Oh, and Josh Hader, they lost him too. But they still have Machado. They still have Tatis. They still have Bogarts, Cronenworth. It's still a really good lineup. I don't know how well their pitching staff will hold up, and that division is going to be tough, man. The Diamondbacks made the World Series last year, and they might be the fourth best team.
Yeah,
I think they're probably better than the Giants, but you can make the argument. Obviously, we talked about the Dodgers. Padres, I think, are probably the second best team, just talent-wise. Mm-hmm. 2, 3, 4, you could really. I'd put the Giants fourth, but they signed.
They signed Blake Snell.
I don't want to. They signed Blake Snell, and they signed a guy from Korea.
Young Ho Lee.
Butcher his name. Young Ho Lee, yeah. Okay, that's what I was gonna say, but I don't want to screw it up and
maybe Young Ho Lee. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Lee from Korea. They signed him. He had a really good spring. He fits well in their lineup, and they made a run at the playoffs last year. They only missed out by a couple games. They might have crashed and burned at the end, but they have some young pieces too. They really love their catcher Patrick Bailey. They have some guys that have kind of resurrected their careers, like Michael Conforto, and they're just they're a very mediocre team. But the top two pitchers in the rotation, Webb and Snell, are both horses. So that's kind of the model that the Phillies have had, honestly, where you just have two studs at the top of your rotation, and it works pretty well if you get to the playoffs. But I don't know if they have the bats to do it. They also have a stud closer, so
seems like they're built for the playoffs, but worried some that they're not going to make the playoffs.
And they don't have a stud in their lineup either. That's why they went heavy on Aaron Judge and missed out on him. They had Aaron Judge signed there for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I remember
John
that.
Heyman mistakenly reported that. And they went heavy after Correa too, and then he failed his physical. Ended up re-signing with the Twins. So that's what they've been missing, and they haven't been able to get. But yeah, they're one superstar in the lineup away, I think, from being a really good team. And then you have the Diamondbacks, who obviously are the defending National League champs, and I think got better. They signed Jordan Montgomery, and they re-signed some of their key pieces from last year. I feel like they made another move. I can't remember. They saw some stuff from some of their young guys in the playoffs last year that was very encouraging. Their catcher Moreno.
Oh, they got
like
Jock
a stud.
Peterson.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know. I'm just trying to look at something.
Brandon Pfaadt, which sounds like fart, is kind of funny, but he dominated the Phillies in the playoffs. He's their third or fourth starter this year, so they're looking for him to put together a good full season. But obviously they're about as dangerous as anybody else in the National League, considering they rolled through everybody last year. But yeah, that division is pretty wild.
So
if I had to rank them, I'd probably go Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Padres, Giants.
That's a tough division right there.
Yeah, it's brutal. I think the AL East is the best, then the NL West.
So before we get
AL West is pretty good too, though.
To your Phillies, we'll wrap it up with the Phillies. But Nets is always a big name. New York. How'd they screw it up this time?
They screwed it up last year, and they've done nothing wrong yet this year, I don't think. Last year they signed, they already had Max Scherzer, and they signed Justin Verlander to a $40 million contract. Traded them both at the deadline. So they basically just bought prospects, because that money, I don't think they even got to clear all that money. I think they still had to eat a lot of their salaries, but they got some top prospects for those guys. But this year didn't really make any moves to signal that they were trying to contend. So the drama there is Pete Alonso and whether or not they're going to trade him or not. Seems like they don't want to pay him, which doesn't make any sense to me because as much as I hate Alonso, like he's a guy who hits bombs and he's the best guy in their lineup by a pretty big chunk. They have no pitching whatsoever. Their rotation is horrible. So, yeah, I don't know. I think they'll be a mediocre team this year. I don't think they'll be like bottom 10 in the league, but I think they'll finish the season 5 to 10 games out of the playoffs.
Sounds about right. Makes sense.
But yeah, the expectations for them are back grounded again.
Okay.
I think Mets fans accepted that, and they know who they are. They got a little too excited for a year and a half there, and I think now they're back to their emotional home, not having any expectations. Yeah.
So let's wrap it up. The baseball talk with the Phillies. How do you think your Phillies are going to do this year? What'd they do? What makes them better this year? What makes them worse? Give me everything.
They did absolutely nothing in the offseason. They re-signed Aaron Nola to like a 7-year contract. They re-signed Wheeler, who had a year left still, to a 3-year contract. So just invested in the top of that rotation. And then they signed a end of the rotation starting pitcher / long reliever. And they signed a utility guy off the bench. And that was it. That was the whole offseason. So I guess they figured we made the World Series 2 years ago. We made the NLCS last year. We're putting ourselves in a position to succeed. We just need to hit in the playoffs. We can't get cold. I thought maybe they'd make a move just to try to spice things up a little bit, just to keep things interesting inside the locker room. But I think the guys love each other. The fans love the guys. So like we're not gonna. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But we're not gonna. They won't win the division. The Braves will, which is fine considering the last 2 years they've seen the Braves in the playoffs and beaten them both times. It would be tough to beat them a third time if they ended up seeing them again. It would be hilarious, and all the pressure would be on Atlanta again. But I think they'll probably win between 88 and 92 games again, and they'll be a wild card team. And it's October, so I'd be incredibly disappointed if they didn't make the playoffs. But it's definitely not a lock to make the playoffs. But they are the exact same team as they were last year.
What teams are you worried about in the wild card that would knock you guys out?
I mean, in a 3-game series, it could be anybody, man. That's the crazy thing about baseball.
To get in the playoffs. Sorry.
So to get in, well, let's see. If we do division winners, we're putting the Dodgers in, we're putting the Braves in. I have the Reds winning the Central. That's kind of like my bold take because I think they're plus 350 to win that division. So that leaves 3 more spots, and you have the Diamondbacks, the Padres, the Giants, Phillies, the Cardinals, and the Cubs. I think those are the teams. And then that doesn't account for a team like, I guess the only other team that might come out of nowhere is the Pirates. I could see the Pirates making a run at it for a little bit. Yeah, those are 6 teams competing for 3 spots. I don't think the Cardinals are all that good. I wouldn't be shocked if the Padres missed the playoffs, the Padres and Giants, or the Diamondbacks, really. I would only bank on one of those teams getting in. And then I think the Cubs will probably get in. So, right off the top of my dome, that's my playoff prediction. Yeah. I have Dodgers 1, Braves 2, Reds 3, and then the wild card, I'll put the Phillies 4, I'll put the Cubs 5, and the Padres 6. How about that?
I like it. Do you have any long shot World Series champs like last year? I think it was the Cubs, or was it the?
No, I had the Guardians.
The Guardians. That's what it was.
Yeah, they fell apart. Long shot. I don't know how long of a shot they are. I think Seattle is not a bad play. Just because their rotation is so freaking good. They have Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Brian Wu, I think is his name. I know his last name is Wu. And Logan Gilbert, which is as good of 4 as anybody in the league has. So just based on that, if they get in, they're going to be a nightmare to match up with. Probably have to get bullpen help at the deadline and another bat. But if they're in contention August, be all the Mariners. I can look it up right now unless you have it pulled up.
Their roster or
series odds.
Oh, the series odds. Series odds from.
I'm gonna guess that the Mariners are like plus 2,200 to win the World Series.
Oh, that's a good.
They also have
good
Julio Rodriguez, who's my pick to win AL MVP. He was cold. Last year was his second year, and he was cold for the first half of the season, and the second half was on an absolute tear. And I think that carries into this year. He's just he's a freaking stud. They're plus 1,900. Okay.
It's a good long shot, right?
So yeah, same odds as the Twins, which is kind of outrageous. Yeah, I like that. They have the 9th best odds.
I like it.
So that'll be my long shot. If you want a boring pick, I would give out the Astros.
Okay.
Because I still don't I'm not going to take the Dodgers or the Braves. I'm more scared of the teams in the National League than I am in the American League, I think. Mm-hmm. Even though the American League is pretty loaded, but Houston is they're like the Chiefs of baseball. And I feel like they've only won 2, right?
I think so.
They lost to the Nats. They lost to the Braves. Yeah, they have 2 World Series. I think they probably have another one in them with that core. Got better. Signed Josh Hader from the Padres, who's might be the best left-handed pitcher in all baseball. Solidify the back end of their bullpen, and it's the same core that's done it before. And you saw last year they only won games in the regular season and still went to Game 7 of the ALCS. So as much as I would hate to see that, I think at plus 750, that's a bet that you can feel pretty good about.
Nice. All right. Well, it seems like it's going to be an exciting baseball season. Seems like it's a little up for grabs. It seems like the Rangers are a good team to win it last year, and a solid team that can either repeat or get taken down by one of these guys. I'm excited to keep an eye on it. I got the T-Mobile. I'm a T-Mobile user, so I have the MLB.
MLB.com.
Yeah. So I'll try to throw on some random games every once in a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, it should be fun. Baseball bothers me though, because why is it only on this MLB TV? There's no.
I mean,
there's there's the local listings for your at home. Right now it would be the Braves and Phillies, but for me because I'm in Carolina, and when we go to YouTube TV out in the living room, it's not there, and then it's blocked off for the MLB TV because it's a local listing. So it's
catch that.
Confusing. What happened?
All right, I thought that was going to be a home run. There was just a ball hit to the wall that I thought could have been caught. I have the tying run at second. They took Wheeler out. All right. There's games on ESPN there's Sunday Night Baseball, and then Fox will do games on Saturdays. I know TBS does Tuesday, I think. And then MLB Network always has a game, I think. If they don't have a game, they have Red Zone, basically. I think they call it Strike Zone.
Yeah.
They just bounce around. So yeah, that might be something to throw on if you guys get MLB Network. I don't know if you have cable or you have YouTube TV, so you probably do.
Okay, yeah, so I'll check that out and see if the Strike Zone's on there. I don't know, I just thought it was confusing to get games.
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar to the NBA. ESPN doesn't do think they only do Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
Do like Wednesdays also. I don't know. I don't really care because Phillies are on every night. So there's usually not a night where I'm looking for a game to watch, and we have MLB TV, so
Yeah, so and once like the T-Mobile, I was like, all right, we're being fine. Like we had the MLB TV.
yeah, I just pick whatever game looks the best.
Yeah.
Oh, son of a bitch.
So to distract Chris a little bit, we're gonna move on to the NCAA tournament. Did they just hit a homer?
No, 2-run double.
Yeah. So it's tied up, 2-2.
Yep.
All right. Well, the Sweet 16, we were going to preview the whole thing, but some of it happened yesterday. And we had some great games yesterday. Only one blowout. Everything else was really close. Clemson is having the dream run that I wish South Carolina had. I don't know how they keep doing it. I did not think they would come close to Arizona. They had them well in the first half. They rode the momentum till the end. I guess this team's just really good. I don't know. I mean, like Arizona.
I mean, everyone said that they sucked before the year.
Yeah, everyone, and right before the tournament, everyone
limped into the tournament. Everyone took New Mexico to beat them.
And I mean, just looking at the game, the Arizona just couldn't shoot. Shooting 37 from the field and 17 from the 3-point line. They couldn't get anything going. Caleb Love, this was his chance to
awful.
Yeah, this was his chance to face his former team. He went all over the place this summer, where it was like he was at Michigan for like 2 days, and he was Arizona. It's gonna be this whole big revenge coming up in the Elite Eight, and he sold. He was bad.
I mean, it felt like it went on a stretch in the second half where there was one in the first half too, but it was like 4 or 5 minutes where they could not hit a shot. And they play so fast and get a lot of rebounds. They're getting up a shot every like 25 seconds. And it was just brick after brick after brick. It was so hard to watch.
It was terrible. It was terrible to watch. As someone who was actively rooting against Clemson, it was just like they were just shooting themselves in the foot over and over again with these plays, and they were still close. It's a 5-point game at the end, and man, but Clemson really had control for the whole game, really.
Yeah, there was only like a 2-3 minute stretch where Arizona was tied or up. They never got up by more than 1 or 2 points. Every time they went on a little run, they just went ice cold.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't even matter how Clemson was playing because none of the shots were going in. It really does boil down to like you shoot well.
Oh yeah,
that's what it comes down to.
And
make or miss tournament.
God, and like I knew PJ Hall was good, but I didn't know this Chase Hunter was good. I overlooked this Clemson team a lot. I mean, they're my rival. Like,
everybody did though. You're not alone.
That's true.
Your fault.
Thanks, Chris.
Your fault.
UConn, another game we don't need to talk about whatsoever. Blew out by 30.
That was an annihilation.
It's only going to be a conversation if one of these teams keeps it close, and it'll be interesting if Illinois can. I don't know if any team can. Maybe Alabama can keep up with the scoring. Maybe Marquette will give them
play defense.
Marquette will give them some battle because it's Big East and they know how to play them. Same with Creighton if they get there, and Purdue might be interesting just because no one can guard Zach Edey without getting a foul. So those are the guys that look for it. Really.
I think Purdue's the only team that can beat them. Illinois can hang with them for a while, but Illinois just has too many flaws. Like UConn is perfect.
Yeah.
But I don't think Illinois is capable of playing a perfect game.
I agree. That Illinois game. If you look at the stats afterwards, like I watched the game and they were pretty good the whole game, but they shot terribly, honestly. Like we were talking about make or miss league. Yeah, they couldn't miss.
Horrible.
They couldn't get anything on the free throw line. They shot less in every percentage but field goal percentage. But they had more turnovers, less steals. They really kind of had no business in this game. But Iowa State couldn't. It felt like at the end just couldn't score a bucket. It's like they had the first half. No,
every time,
and then right at the end, Illinois State just could not get, or Iowa State, sorry, just could not get a bucket.
Every time they had a chance to tie it, which was over and over again, they would battle back and they would get it to a one-score game.
Yep.
And every time, they would either miss a wide-open shot or they'd throw the ball away or some other dumb thing would happen on offense. And it was so maddening to watch as someone who had Iowa State, because then Illinois would come down and hit a 3 and it would be a 5-point game, and that would be a 7-point game. And then they would inch their way back.
Mm-hmm.
And then, again, turnover, they missed so many shots, so many open threes, and so many open shots at the rim that, that was the worst way to watch your team go out, honestly, I think.
Yeah.
Because Illinois did not play that great of a game.
No.
They had so many freaking chances to get back into that game that if they played like a 5-3, yes! All right, we're going to the bottom of the 7th tide.
Nice.
With that. What was I saying? If they played like a B- game, I think they win. And that's that's tough to accept.
Yeah, and they played a D+, if that. It was. I
guess bad. You could also say if Illinois doesn't shoot 50% from the free throw line, you're not even in the game.
Yeah, that's true.
Illinois just has, I think, more talent than Iowa State. But I thought Iowa State would be a better fundamental team, and they weren't.
The best game of the night was Alabama, North Carolina. It seemed like the beginning of the game, it was for almost most of the game, it was just back and forth. North Carolina, the oldest team in the country. It was pretty. It was
34.
Yeah, considering they had 2 guys in their starting lineup at 25 years old, it was pretty nice.
Yeah, no one feels bad for them.
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
If I didn't hate Alabama so much, I'd be rooting against them. But hey, there's a stain on that program.
Yeah, it's funny. It's not fair that Bama can just be like, all right, we just lost Nick Saban, but hey, we're good at basketball now.
No, it's not. I was thinking about that last night. They're playing them in freaking Clemson. They're playing in the Elite Eight.
Yep.
They just played 3 national championships in a row a couple of years ago. It's not fair at all.
No, these football schools can't be getting basketball prospects too. They can't take everything from us. But I mean, it was a typical Alabama game. Everyone was just shooting. Everyone was scoring. USC was keeping up, and
Nelson, dude, was unbelievable in the second half.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That dude, he might be the ugliest person I've ever seen, but that dude can hoop, and it felt like he did not miss.
No, and he was getting a ton of rebounds. He's a Karl Malone Forward of the Year finalist. I didn't know Karl Malone.
Karl Malone should not have an award named after.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, he was the story of this game. He came from, I didn't know he was from North Dakota State. So it's just these transfer
I remember
guys.
him. I didn't recognize him until they said that, and then I was like, wait, I remember him being in the portal.
Mm-hmm.
Because of course, when a guy enters the portal, you'd think that your team has a shot at him.
Yeah, of course.
And like, oh, this Grant Nelson guy, he was like one of the top guys in the portal. I didn't remember him looking like that.
No, definitely not.
I'm sure. I'll bet the Alabama fans love Grant Nelson.
Oh, I'm sure. They probably have jerseys for him. But it was
plays the game the right way.
They just all fundamentals. But no, it was Alabama's game plan, and UNC just couldn't keep up. They just kept shooting threes. UNC had to keep up by shooting threes, and they shot them better. This was a fun game, though. This was a really fun game, just back and forth, close at the end. Literally everything you could have wanted for a nice Sweet 16 matchup.
Yeah. I mean, Carolina sold that game. They had the ball up the point with a minute left.
Yeah.
And then that guy who's, I don't think is a 3-point shooter, couldn't help himself. As soon as he pulled up, I was like, that better go in, dude. Because there was time left on the shot clock.
Those
But you can't
stupid
blame it all
threes.
on him when RJ Davis was also 0 of 9 from 3 and like he have 18 from the floor and got absolutely strapped on the last possession of the game. Baycott also missed a dunk. He had a couple turnovers down low. So if anyone's to blame, it's their two best players that have been there for 12 years.
Yeah, and they had this guy, Elliot Credeau, playing. He shot like 19% from 3 this whole season. And I think he was like 8 for 40 something this whole season. So I that might have been the guy that you were talking about that took that last second 3, number 2. I think that was him. It's like, what are you doing? All right, looking up, we have a couple great games today, which will probably, if you're listening to this, will probably be over. But Marquette, NC State will be fun. DJ Burns, by the way, we called him BJ Burns in the last pod. DJ Burns.
Call him DJ.
He'll be fun to go up against Marquette. It'll be cool to see if the one Cinderella seed team can make it to the Elite Eight. Like, I mean,
I did take NC State money line just in case.
What was the money line?
I have a ton of plus 240. I had a ton of free bets, and I'm going to the casino tonight, so
nice.
It's gonna be quite the ride.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun night. Gonzaga, Purdue. There's a lot of people picking Gonzaga over Purdue. Is that just like a hate Purdue thing, or do we think?
I think so. I think people. I mean, Gonzaga's looked a lot better than I think people gave him credit for going into the tournament because a lot of people picked McNeese State to beat Gonzaga in the first round, and now they're just like flipping. They beat McNeese, and then they beat a Kansas team who barely got out of the first round and is one of the worst Kansas teams in recent memory, which is crazy that they were a 4 seed. We're saying the worst Kansas team we've seen.
And
freaking
number 1,
man. Can't see a slider. Yeah, like they blew those teams out. I think Purdue is so much better, obviously better than McNeese. I think they're way better than Kansas. And Purdue just beat the shit out of Utah State. So I don't know. I think Purdue is the second best team in the tournament. I have a lot riding on Purdue, so I might just be manifesting this, but I think Purdue beats them by 10.
I don't see it either. I like the story. I like everyone trying to will it, but it's not. I don't think it's gonna happen. As you said, beat up on 2 mediocre teams, and Gonzaga and Purdue whooped on everyone they've played. And it doesn't, like, I know everyone's gonna complain about the whistle, and it's probably gonna come up here too. This is a Joel Embiid factor. Like, he's just too big. He's gonna get the whistle. I don't even think it's no like NCAA agenda. Like, I don't think let's have the biggest guy in the tournament, but let's, like, if he's at the basket, it's either going in or you're fouling him, and that's why he didn't go in. Yeah. So there's nothing you could do about it, and that is
he literally is just too big.
He is. It's the reason why Shaq could never do this stuff like this, because he couldn't hit free throws. If Shaq could hit free throws, he'd probably be like a 4-time MVP, averaging 40 a season. But
Edie's like a 75% free throw shooter.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like, it's the same thing with Embiid and Jokic in the NBA. It's like it might be a little ticky-tacky and a little questionable at times, but he's getting clawed every time he goes up to the basket. Like, there's 5 guys.
At least it's not Big Ten refs, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I feel like it got to the point where he was just getting every call. So maybe it's a little different. The games, like the first 2 games, you don't even notice because we're such blowouts that no amount of officiating could change the game. But refs definitely in the limelight tonight because this has a chance to be their first close game of the tournament. And it'll be very interesting to see how they call Edie.
Yeah, it will.
And Big Ten.
I'm excited. I'm excited for this game. Hopefully it's close. I hope it's not a blowout the whole time. But two other great games coming up. We got Duke versus Houston. What are you thinking here? I really don't know.
I don't love either of these teams. I took Duke. I'm not crazy about it though. I just don't. I feel like Houston can lose to anybody because they play such good defense. It just really slows the game down, and more talented, and there's less possessions in the game, then you have more of a chance to lose. I think Duke is pretty close to their level. They just haven't lived up to that potential this year. I don't know if I love Duke either, though. So this is kind of a toss-up for me, which is why I took the underdog. I just don't trust Houston in the tournament. But that's all I got. I don't have any great insight for that pick. It's just kind of a gut.
There's some about
feeling.
Defensive teams. Like I feel like Houston's been the best defensive team like the past 4 years or something, like close to that.
You know? Oh yeah, they have.
And they've never made a big run in the tournament. I like these defensive teams. Yeah.
But you can also say that like UVA the year they won was kind of the same way. It was just these horrible grinded out games, and then one year it just works where they go on a run and they do just suffocate everybody and they hit big shots when they need to. But I feel like you have to be so clutch every game because you're playing in much closer games the way you play. So that's why I don't love them. But you're right, they have been the best defensive team for what feels like 4 years now.
And it worked against Longhorn. I mean, Longhorn only got 46 points, but they got 95 scored on them by Texas A&M, and they had to score 100 with.
Oh yeah.
And
it was over 80 going into overtime.
Yeah. It was over 80 going into overtime.
Still more than they usually give up.
So that's concerning to me. I mean, they were able to keep up, and they had a ton of guys out. I don't know. I like there's some the guys on their team. They clearly play hard for the school and are play as hard as they can. So I don't know. I do like how they kept up with Texas A&M, even with their guys getting out, and they were able to stay with it after that crazy game that we talked about last time. And so I really don't know. I'm gonna take Houston here, even though I just said all that stuff. I'm gonna take Houston here because
I don't believe in Duke either.
That's
This is not one of the better Duke teams we've seen.
No, and I really want to see them out of the tournament. I need to see them out of here. So I guess not two evils, but I'm taking the good over the bad here. I'm taking Houston.
Yeah, that's fair.
Creighton, Tennessee is going to be a great game.
I'm so excited. I think this is the game of the night.
Two very high scoring teams that have been in wars. Feels like this whole season, and this should be a great matchup. One of the best SEC teams, of course, in Tennessee. They have Dalton Connect's one of the best players in the country.
They needed Dalton Connect.
Oh yeah,
this team from one of those Houston style teams to how they just have a dude who goes out and gets 25 a game and doesn't really play that good of defense. He's exactly what they need, which is why I kind of believe in them. I feel like I don't trust. This is another one where I don't trust either of these teams a lot.
I think
Creighton has been here before and just have never made a run.
I think what concerns me about Creighton is I think if Tennessee played Oregon, even though Oregon gave us trouble and we were able to beat Tennessee a couple times, as in the Gamecocks. But I do I think they kind of blow out Oregon, and I don't know if that this is projecting. I don't know, but I feel like if this was a matchup between Oregon and Tennessee, it would be they would completely blow them out, and that's what concerns me about Creighton. I think tournament play, Dalton Connect is when these this is when I feel like his name's gonna get out there. I know it's been out there. They blew out St. Peter's. They had a close game against Texas, but I feel like this is a good 20-plus point game for him. He makes his name out there for a March Madness, maybe a legend type deal. And that's how I feel it's going to go. But these Big East teams, as we've seen all year,
They haven't lost.
Are tough to go to. So this is definitely the most fun matchup of the game. And it is crazy. Where is this game being played? Because I remember these 10 p.m. start times got to be brutal for some of these teams.
Oh, I know. It was brutal last night, dude.
I know. Because we were watching because they were overlapped. Alabama UNC was going on, and then the Illinois game.
Yeah.
And it was like probably right before half, and maybe right after half when UNC ended. It's like, man, we got 15 more minutes.
Yeah, we got a whole half to go, boys. You know what, dude? My eyes were like bleeding by the end of last night because there was baseball on since 3 too. I was like, I need a break.
Just get away from the TV.
Son of a bitch.
What's going on with the Braves? Or Phillies?
That's 3-2 now.
Not what we like to see. Tough matchup for opening day, going against you.
Not good.
So this could be a great tournament round. Looking at, I guess since the Elite Eight starts tomorrow, we already talked about Illinois, UConn, Clemson, Alabama. I'm just praying that Alabama freaking whoops them. I think it's a slower paced team versus a higher paced team. Hopefully Alabama can keep up the pace, keep up the shooting, and beat Clemson. But I mean, I'm now worried if they make it to the Final Four. Like, I'm gonna be in shambles. I'm so upset.
I don't think they will. I think Bama will take care of them. I don't know. I don't feel good betting against Clemson right now.
And then UConn, whatever their money, like whatever their spread is, I'm just gonna take and be blinded, because I remember people were worried about the 11.5 for San Diego.
Yeah, and they covered 29.5.
Yeah, so I'm just as much as Illinois played a great game and have had a great tournament, I don't see anyone like UConn is a team to beat.
They're -8.5.
That's it. That's like almost disrespectful for UConn. They should post that up in the locker room. They should post that up in the locker room. Be like,
you know, Danny Hurley knows.
Oh, he definitely knows.
He's just gonna run up the score whenever he gets the chance.
Danny Hurley had a great quote. He was like, we blow out these teams and like we're just doing our pace, like we're playing our type of basketball. But he goes, but we can't lose close. We can't win close games, so we like have to blow them out. Which I thought was hilarious.
He's a psychopath.
He's an interesting guy, but you can see why those guys are blowing out teams. Their coach is a psycho, and that means they bought in, and they're all psychos insane. Too. Yeah, they're all psychos too.
They're nuts. They are awesome to watch. The offensive rebounding last night was, I don't know if I've ever seen a team get that many offensive rebounds. It was every possession they had second and third chance. They weren't even hitting. They had I think they had 12 second chance points on 20 offensive rebounds. It's like
they had 21.
Not even rebounds. A good conversion rate, and they still hung 85 points on them.
They had 21 more rebounds than San Diego State did. That's crazy. They play with
just so much better.
They play with a chemistry that is also unmatched in the NCAA. And it's pretty surprising, honestly, because they lost a bunch of guys last year. I mean, they're a couple, I think three of their starters went to the NBA. So
Hawkins,
Sanogo, and Jackson, Andre Jackson, went to the Bucks. So
and they're better this year.
Yeah, and they're better, and they have. It's insane. Cam Spencer, Wyatt gave out his MVP before the tournament, and that looks like a pretty good bet coming into now.
Yeah, I mean, they just have so many guys. Klingon sucked last night. It didn't even matter.
I know, he got 8 and 8, and that's a disappointment for him.
He could not hit a shot to save his life. And it literally didn't matter because it's we'll just have Cam Spencer take somebody one-on-one.
It is funny. Their depth, their depth is not even a factor. You don't even need their depth. Their bench points were they got 15 off the bench. That's nothing. So that's what's scary, honestly. And I guess it would be if you're a UConn fan, maybe you're worried that there is not a ton of depth. But I mean, I'm sure. I mean, they still had some guy drop 10 off the bench. I didn't even know was on the team. This team is the team to beat, and they're loaded. So I'm not gonna pick against them. All right, update. Let's update the tournament challenge real quick, and then we'll get out of here. See who's leading. I mean, anything else? Anything else you need to bring up before we head out? Just made it to an hour, so made it.
Yeah. I'll have of all the Elite Eight games to break down Tuesday. We'll have a Final Four set.
Oh yeah.
So it's sad, man. It goes by so quickly.
I
feel like I've watched more this year than I've ever watched, and it is taking a toll on me.
It is sad that it's like after that first weekend, you're like, man, I just wish I was every weekend. Like today, when I'm sitting here, like I was sitting out here, I came out about 1:00, and I was like, I thought baseball is supposed to be our saving grace here. Like, isn't games supposed to be starting right now? And I guess it was like 3:00, but there's something about like this waking up at like, and then like 3 hours later, there's a sports game on. It's like there's nothing.
It is awesome.
All right. The tournament challenge, Wise Guys t-shirt, currently in the lead is still Grant. Peg is gonna peg.
Grant. He lost. I think he had Arizona. Or
who did he have? Oh my God, his bracket is 99%. Holy crap! But he did. Yeah, he did. He didn't have Alabama or Clemson, so that screws him up. He needs Purdue over Tennessee for this. If he gets Purdue over Tennessee, he might lock it up. And Houston over Marquette, he might lock it up right there, which would be pretty crazy. There's a lot of UConn pickers still in the top 5, top 10 even, because a lot of them are tied. If it goes to my if it goes to my dad, he'll be the winner, and then I'll give out another one.
Why doesn't your dad get a t-shirt?
No, I said I'll give him one, and then we'll pick another one, just because it's part of the family.
Okay.
We'll get someone outside of the family.
Sure, that'd be corruption.
Yeah, exactly. So, but Grant is in the lead right now, and he has what's his max points? The max points, the Jimmies. I don't know who the Jimmies are, but max points wise, the Jimmies.
I thought you might know who the Jimmies are.
No, I don't know who the Jimmies are. I guess we'll figure that out.
I didn't know if it was like a Seinfeld reference or.
I don't know
if it's actually a Jimmy.
Maybe a last name Jimmy. Like a family name.
I don't know any last name Jimmys.
No, neither do I. But I am pretty far down. I'm tied. Yeah, I'm tied for. Oh well. How are you looking?
I think I'm middle of the pack. Grant and I both have Purdue.
Yeah. Okay. So you didn't even name your bracket.
The wiser guy.
Oh, there you go. No, you're a little bit. You're far. You're lower than my brother somehow, who has South Carolina as the national champ. Pretty funny. All right.
Whatever.
Well, that does it. Glad we got to pod today. Great baseball talk. Great March Madness talk. Excited for the weekend. Enjoy your Easter. Happy Easter to everyone. And we'll see everyone either Monday or Tuesday. We'll figure it out. But thank you all for listening.
Twice next week.
Yeah, twice next week.
Say that.
Yeah, well, we should try. I want to try to do a three-time pod a week once, but we got to figure out real things need to be happening.
Get it done.
Yeah, but real things need to be happening. We can't be just doing. I mean, I guess we could do like a top 5 episode. That'd be fun. All right. Anyways, thank you all for listening. Have a great Easter. We'll see everyone next week.